Hey, what's going on, Candelas? It's Dan Thomas with 8Z Real Estate for another episode of Spotlight on Candelas. In this episode, I interview Eric Carlson with Allstate. We discuss his transition into the insurance world, how important it is to have a detailed conversation with your insurance agent up front and not at claim time. And we also dive into the awkward experience of sharing with one spouse the unknown speeding tickets the other spouse has. Take a look. Welcome, Eric.
Hello, all.
Yeah, so most of the time these interviews have kind of taken place with neighbors that have been in the neighborhood a little longer than you have. I know you and your family just moved here in September, so again, welcome. But what let us tell us a little more about yourself, because again, you probably haven't had a chance to meet too many neighbors beyond your block.
Correct. Yeah, we closed on our house September 11th, so just was about 8 weeks ago. Couldn't be more excited. We've fallen in love with this neighborhood more and more the longer we're here. We went our contract in the house in January. To be honest, we weren't even really expecting to be buying a house at the point. We just kind of stumbled across this neighborhood, started looking, and fell in love. Some of the biggest keys is, we just saw kids everywhere in the parks and the pools, even though the pools aren't open right now, but the pools, and it just super friendly neighborhood, lots of people, lots of kids, and it just was right up our alley. And so we decided to make a move on it, and here we are, 9 months later, and loving it.
So far, so good with the house?
Yes. No problems so far, no warranty work. They finished our house early, so super excited about that. And yeah, we love it. It's great. All the things on top of it, getting some extra work done, the fence is done. It's been a little bit of a hassle and time consuming, but other than that, it's been great.
Yeah, so a little background on you and your family. So married and 2 kids, correct?
Married and 3 kids. I have 2 stepdaughters, 11 and 6, and then my wife and I, we have our child, and he is just about 2, a little boy. So 2 older girls and a little boy. Both my wife and I are Colorado natives. I grew up in Evergreen. She grew up in Green Mountain, and we've stuck around the Lakewood area for all our life. And to get out of our little bubble up here has been great.
Yeah. Well, again, welcome. Like I said, I've been here since 6.5 years, so I think you're spot on. It's a great family neighborhood, and welcome. So insurance. So I know in talking to you prior to this interview, I know you started your agency 13 months ago. So to give some background, what was it about insurance and that kind of drew you away from your past career, and and then a follow-up question, why Allstate?
To be honest, Dan, and I think I told you this the other day, is insurance wasn't a career goal for me. It just happened to land in my lap, and it fits me well. I've always enjoyed helping people. I volunteer my time with a few organizations, and any way I can help out in communities and help people and friends and family, it really just makes me feel good. And along with insurance, you're doing the same thing. Most of the time it's just your normal day-to-day office work, but when it comes to claim time, that's really where I really shine and enjoy it. If someone has an issue, an accident, leaky pipes, they give me a call and I can help them out some way. That's what I enjoy most about insurance.
And there was there something that drew you to Allstate? Because I believe you had conversations with some other companies, and that didn't work.
Really,
then Allstate did.
It really just came down to their platforms. As a Allstate agent, we own the book of business, where other agencies or other insurers, you don't technically own the book. That's what drew me to Allstate the most. Also, just the atmosphere in Allstate, it's very family oriented. What they do for their agents, There's a lot of perks to Allstate in that sense, and it just felt right with me. I had spoken to 3 other carriers before Allstate, and I never signed on. It just didn't feel right. And then when Allstate came around, it was the right match.
Gotcha. So how has the first 13 months been? I mean, I'm sure there's been a huge learning curve, but how are things going?
Well, I mean, as we all know, with the pandemic, it was 6 months being open, or 7 months being open is when the pandemic hit, and it was a little scary.
Yeah.
We made some changes and we thrived with it. So, the first year being open, we had our challenges, we overcame them. It's been great. It's worked really well, and it's just adapt and change and survive.
Yeah.
And but other than that, as far as a business perspective, yeah, there was a lot to learn. Learning, insurance is new to me. That was probably the biggest change. I'd worked in the automotive industry my whole life, and going into a totally different field. So there's a huge learning curve there. One great thing about Allstate is they do have a lot of training. I spent 4 months training with Allstate before I even opened my agency.
Okay.
But the struggles of employees and finances and all that stuff's a great learning curve. Made me a bigger and stronger person for sure.
Right. But I mean, even through all that adversity, I know you mentioned that you guys are still thriving and being in the top, 5, 10, agencies for Allstate in Colorado. I mean, so, even through the challenges, you guys are still thriving.
Correct. Yeah. Just my background in sales and management is that's what made me succeed through all this. So.
Gotcha. So, 13 months in, what surprised you thus far, with insurance? Obviously I know, skill set wise, you have a sales background and so communication's probably easy for you and stuff, but, whether it's the industry or interaction with consumers, what's surprised you thus far?
Interaction with consumers, it's right along the lines of, being a real estate agent is, everyone's got their insurance agent. Everyone has a real estate agent. Being somebody new in the field makes it a little bit tougher to break through that noise of convincing someone to go with me over their insurance agent or their friend's insurance agent or their parents' insurance agent.
Yeah. And I mean, have you touched on what the holdup is? I mean, is it loyalty? Is it a fixation with cost and savings, and a combination of both?
It's a combination of quite a few things. I think loyalty, familiarity with who they're working with, price, fix and save, saving money here and there, and it's tough. There's a lot of reasons.
Yeah. Well, and let's expand on the savings part, because I think that's how most non-insurance people, when they hear insurance, they think about all the commercials and ads. What is it? Spend 15 minutes and save 15%. I mean, everything's about the upfront savings. But you were sharing with me the other day that people don't realize. Yeah, sometimes there's some minute upfront savings, but once it comes to claim time, a deeper dive into that policy, sometimes a little more money, is worth it when it comes to claim time.
Exactly. Every insurance company out there is guilty of it, and in their advertising, they're always talking about saving money. Of course, if you come into my office, I can probably save you money, but you don't have the coverages that you need or want. I can drive down that cost, but as you said, is when it comes to claim time, whether it be an auto claim, liability claims, roof claims, it really matters that you have the proper coverage.
Right.
Where you don't save the money in the long run is if you have a claim and you're covered properly. If you don't have correct liability coverages and you get in an accident and injure someone, you don't have enough to cover the cost of that injury, you will be held liable for the above and beyond what your liability limits are.
Right.
That's where it saves you money in the long run. In the short run, you may pay a little bit more, but you'll have the proper coverage. So when it does come to claim time, you're not worried about having to pay out of pocket.
So would you advise our neighbors, I know for my business and the agents that work under me, I'm fond of saying, hey, every client has a story. There's going to be a specific strategy to that story. So we need to do a good job of sitting down and really understanding that story, because, two clients or consumers are not going to be the same. I mean, is it along the same lines that you would advise, hey, sit down, whether it's you or, the loyalty to your longtime insurance agent, sit down and share your story and really go through things, so you're not, I know I see it on the real estate side with insurance all the time, where people have no clue what's going on with their policy to its claim time, and then they're surprised, by kind of the details that are in the policy. So, I mean, would you strongly recommend that?
Yeah, every person has their own unique situation, value of their house, value of their cars, values, if they have kids or not, and how you need to be protected, what your asset levels are. That all goes into play on how much protection or liability coverage you should have. As far as your home goes, how old your roof is, if you have a basement or not, if you have upgrades. There's a lot that goes into the policy, and if you don't have the proper coverages, when it does come to the claim time, like you said on the roof, then you will have a lot more out of pocket if you're not familiar with it and unaware of the coverages you have.
Yeah. Yeah. So to be clear, I mean, you want them to control the decision, whether they want to save that money up front, right, or, just taking the responsibility to actually have that conversation, and how things are built in and how it's going to play out, right, is the important part. Yeah.
Yeah. And being honest with your agent.
Yeah.
And let them know what you have and what's out there is a key thing as well. If I don't know, then I can't recommend the proper coverages. Gotcha.
So shifting to, for a minute, some feature functionality, with insurance. And again, these are, two topics, that are timely and come up a lot. I see it all the time with roofs. And I think, people, with the hail we often get here in Colorado. And so, update our neighbors just on, the direction insurance companies are going and how they, are determining roofs and what direction they're going.
Again, there's quite a bit that goes into it, and every insurance company has a different product out there. So it's important to know a few things. The age of your roof. Fortunately here in Candelas, we all have newer roofs, newer homes, newer roofs. So it's not a major problem. But as we time out, it's good to know your age of the roof. With Allstate, they've got age restrictions on the roofs on how it's covered, and different products for different ages of roofs, along with other companies. So it's important to know that. Your deductibles, as you said, hail claim is the #1 claim in Colorado, and insurance companies are trying to drive deductibles up so that you pay more out of pocket for the roof claim. That's the direction the insurance companies are going. The days of only paying $500 or $1,000 out of pocket are going away. And if you do have a policy with $1,000 deductible, that's great. But in the future, as they move forward, the policies with $1,000 deductible, the price of the policies, they're driving that price up quite a bit to reclaim their money.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and then a timely topic with unfortunately all the fires we've had the last several months, and I guess specifically the last few weeks, with Grand Lake and Estes Park and that sort of thing. And I know a few neighbors have second homes up that direction and stuff. So kind of just your recommendation, with how people should prepare themselves, for living up there versus suburbia like Candelas.
Right. Yeah, it's it's an unfortunate reminder. My heart goes out to those families that lost homes up there. You know, it's one of those things we never think it's going to happen to us, right?
Right.
And we still do live in Colorado, and probably our biggest fear is a fire, you know, especially if we're up in the foothills in the trees. You know, here in Candelas, we don't have to worry about it as much, but it could still happen. But, you know, if you do have a second home up there and you're more at risk, you know, the biggest thing, you know, make sure you have the proper coverage. You know, make sure your dwelling coverage is correct. What the insurance company will pay out of pocket to replace that dwelling or rebuild the dwelling, I should say. And then taking time to note what personal belongings you have in the home. If you do have a complete loss like that, it's going to be a very stressful time. It's easy to forget what you had in that home. So having a good inventory of those items will make your life a lot easier when it does come to that claim time. Hopefully it never does, but if it does, with Allstate, one thing we offer is on our Allstate mobile app, we have what's called a digital locker, where you just go into the app and you can take video of everything that's in your home, your TVs, computers, clothes, toys, bikes, all that stuff, all your valuables, and it just makes it a lot easier when it comes to claim and help you remember what you have in your house, so you know what items the insurance company has to replace. It's a lot easier to claim those items before the claim closes. Is if after the claim closes and you're like, oh yeah, I've got that one painting I forgot to put in there that's worth $5,000. It's gonna be a lot harder to reclaim that money once the claim's closed. So if you have a good inventory before it happens, then it make your life a lot easier during claim time.
And that shouldn't be limited to just people living in the mountains. I mean, that, you know.
No, I mean, we could have a house fire here. I mean, it's rare.
Yeah.
It can happen. It does happen.
Right.
Whether it be, you know, faulty electrical or a mistake on the homeowner.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and it's funny. When you mentioned that to me the other day, it was one of those. I had one of those moments like, yeah, that's so simple, and I never even thought about it till you brought it up. So.
And it should be noted too, if you're not with Allstate, the Allstate app, you can still use the Allstate app to use that digital locker. It's a free thing that Allstate offers. So you can just download the app and go into the digital locker and take inventory of all your items, and then you have it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be an Allstate customer to use that.
Oh, see, even better information. So now, you know, transitioning into, you know, Candelas and, you know, your involvement. I mean, I know, you know, we started this interview, our conversation with, you know, you being new to the neighborhood and how fond of the neighborhood you and your family are, you know, thus far. But, you know, neighborhood and community matter to you, and you really want to be a resource, you know, to neighbors, you know, whether they, you know, are going to use you or not.
Correct.
You know.
Yeah, I'm here to, you know, I want to get involved with the community in multiple ways. Like I said earlier in the conversation that, you know, I love to volunteer. Being new to the community, I don't know all the volunteer opportunities yet. But, you know, I plan to get involved and volunteer where I can. That being said, as far as insurance goes, I'm more than willing to help anyone in the community with their questions. Whether you're a customer or not, whether you're with Allstate or not, it really doesn't matter to me. You know, if you just want me to take a look at your policy to make sure you're covered correctly, I will give you an honest answer. No obligations. So, you know, I care more about taking care of people than, you know, selling them on.
Right, because I think when you're in any form of sales, one of the things that is misunderstood, you know, is, you know, no salesperson, whether it's insurance or real estate or, you know, financial advisement, you know, is anti-loyalty. You know, I mean, we all do better when we have loyal customers and loyal clients. So, you know, it's you know, it's not a situation where we're mad or disappointed that, hey, Chuck's been my guy for 22 years. Like there's, nothing, nothing against that. But at the same time, being a neighborhood resource, sharing information, the fact that people are getting correct and honest information is more important than, worrying about, being disloyal to Chuck, who's been your guy for 22 years.
Right. Yeah. In fact, I just quoted a family here in Candelas last week, and wasn't a good fit. And I told them that straight up front. It was like, stay where you're at. You got a great policy. But here's one mistake in your policy. And she's like, wow, I never realized that. Thank you. We'll get that fixed, because it could have caused massive problems in the long run. Right. And she was very excited about that.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I take the same, approach. I've had people ask me about, petitioning the increase in your property taxes, or, hey, I know you're finishing your basement right now. Hey, what's the ROI on finishing a basement? And again, making sure people get good, honest information. Right. Everything, every industry flows better, the more that's happening. So, right. So to my Candelas neighbors here, again, if you guys have any, questions or needing some input, I can. With a few conversations with Eric, I know he's genuine and wanting to be that resource for all of us. So, yeah. Sure. Well, Eric, I appreciate all your time. I like to kind of wrap up these interviews on more of a fun, whimsical note. And just ask you, and I know it's only been 13 months, but thus far, what's one or two things that people are surprised about in what you deal with day to day or pretty frequently?
I would have to say, we do quite a few quotes within our office, and my favorite one I would have to say is when I'm talking to a spouse, a husband or a wife, and we tell them we got to run their motor vehicle records. And 90% of the time they come back and say, oh yeah, we haven't had tickets in years. And, I'm talking to the wife, for example, and I go ahead and run the MVR, and I'm like, well, your husband's got 2 speeding tickets here. And, or even better yet, their children have the speeding tickets, but they didn't tell the parents. And so that's always a shock to, it's a little bit of an awkward situation, conversation at that point, but you have to tell them, because that's why because rates are so, heavy dependent on, your driving record, your home and your auto. Yeah. So it's always a fun conversation when that happens.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens, more than we think.
Yeah.
I'm sure that makes the dinner table enjoyable that night.
Right. Yeah. And it may be just the husband paid it and just never forgot to tell his wife, or it could be the other way around. Who knows? But it's always interesting when that happens.
Yeah. Well, look, Eric. Again, I appreciate your time today. Again, welcome to the neighborhood, and like I said, we've had a couple of conversations, but I can genuinely tell that you're going to be very honest and transparent with people, and you genuinely care that the consumer is going to be taken care of. So any neighbors looking to get a quote, or maybe shift carriers, make sure you give Eric a call. So
I look forward to meeting everybody and enjoying this neighborhood even more.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, there'll be plenty of ways to volunteer. So it's been, obviously we all know it's been a groundbreaking year. So some things have been put on the shelf this year, but hopefully we get back to some normalcy, and we'll see you and your family out at a lot of events. So.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Again, welcome, and thanks so much for your time. And like I said, we'll see you around the neighborhood.
Great. Thank you.
All right, take care. Well, there you go. Another episode of Spotlight on Candelas. Again, I'd like to thank Eric Carlson for his time. I'd also like to thank you guys for watching. If you like what you see and you'd like to subscribe on YouTube, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. And if you would like to see previous episodes of Spotlight on Candelas or keep up to date on anything in our Candelas neighborhood, go ahead and like our Facebook page at facebook.com/Candelas neighborhood. And lastly, if you are a local business owner or an influencer in the Candelas neighborhood and would like to be featured in an upcoming episode, go ahead and reach out to me. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.